Not a lot of people talk about this out loud, but today you're gonna hear a truth that'll flip your mind upside down. A man was taken by God. No warning, no goodbye, no funeral. And no, we're not talking about some famous prophet or superhero. Of faith, we're talking about Enoch, a regular guy, but with a faith so extraordinary that his story challenges everything we think we know about life and death. Ever thought about that? Maybe you grew up thinking life's just a string of days, and in the end, we all face the same reality. But what if I told you there's a different path, a destiny reserved only for those who dare to live with awareness and faith? Yeah, Enoch's journey proves there's something much bigger waiting for those who choose to walk with God for real. And no, this ain't some spiritual conspiracy theory. It's the Bible showing that spirituality is more real than we imagine. I know it might sound over the top or even like a fairy tale, but if you think Enoch was just some historical figure, it's time to rethink that, because his walk wasn't about rules or religion. It was about connection, spirituality, inner strength, stuff that's available for you and me right now. And the best part, you don't need to wait for some special moment to start walking this path. Today, we're going to unlock the secrets of this story that messes with logic, breaks the rules, and shows that God has plans so big, so out of the ordinary, you'll never look at life the same way again. The real question is, are you ready to hear a truth most people are too scared to face? Not a lot of folks stop to think about it. But Enoch wasn't just another name buried in some ancient scroll. He was that guy who, in a world full of chaos and confusion, decided to walk a totally different path. While everyone else was drowning in darkness, Enoch was walking with God. And let me tell you, he wasn't just walking with God now and then. It was a daily commitment, a relationship, deeper than what eyes could see. Can you picture that today? A guy who, while everyone else is chasing clout and followers, chooses to walk side by side with the Creator. That kind of connection doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. Enoch made a choice to let go of the world's distractions and dive into real, living, practical spirituality. You know, all that time we waste scrolling through social media, chasing news and gossip? He traded that for deep moments of awareness and communion with God. Want to try something similar? How about carving out just 15 minutes a day to unplug from the noise and reconnect with your inner strength and with Jesus? That simple shift can change your whole perspective. And the most amazing thing? Enoch didn't need to preach in public, squares, or give epic speeches to make an impact. His presence, the way he lived, spoke louder than 1,000 words. People saw him and, even if they didn't understand it, felt something different, something that touched their spirit. It's like when you meet someone who, without saying much, radiates a peace you just can't explain. That's the kind of influence that comes from genuine spirituality. It inspires effortlessly. Now stop and think. If Enoch could keep that connection alive in a corrupted world, why do we find it so hard today? Are we letting the hustle and distractions rob us of what really matters? Maybe it's time to rethink our priorities, to chase more awareness and less rush, more spirituality and less superficiality. Because in the end, that strength from God is what really holds us up. And as Enoch kept walking closely with the Creator, something in him started to shift. It wasn't just static faith. It was a spirituality that kept growing, getting more intense, deeper, more real. And here's where things start getting even more interesting, because it was in that space of communion that he started seeing something no one else could. In the middle of his everyday life, in the same old routine, Enoch heard something no one else could hear. It wasn't thunder or some loud voice from the sky, but a deep calling, almost like a whisper in his soul. You know that feeling when you just sense there's something more waiting for you? Something bigger, more meaningful? That's exactly what Enoch felt. And it was that feeling that made him walk away from the ordinary and chase after something eternal, pure, and true. That calling is like that moment when you realize life can't just be about waking up, working, paying bills, and going to bed. There's more. Maybe you felt that restlessness too, so what can you do with it? Start with small changes. Add a few minutes each day to read deep spiritual texts like Proverbs, or even a daily devotional to reignite your search for the eternal. Because just like Enoch, it's in the silence where God's voice becomes clear. But, hey, that calling wasn't easy. It came with doubts, uncertainties, a kind of invisible fear. Enoch knew it wasn't simple to step away from the ordinary. But he also knew that peace of mind, inner strength, and a clear conscience are priceless. It's like when you decide to live more spiritually, even when the world calls you old-fashioned or weird. That courage is rare, but it transforms everything. The truth is, Enoch's calling was silent, but it shook everything. He started realizing that the small daily choices, what to say, what to listen to, how to treat others, were doorways to something much bigger. How about starting today by changing the way you react to things? Swap complaining for gratitude. Replace indifference with words of strength and positivity. Those tiny actions have a massive spiritual impact and are the first step toward a life of purpose. And as Enoch dove deeper into that calling, something supernatural started to happen. It wasn't just him getting more aware or more spiritual. It was like heaven itself was pulling back the curtain, revealing hidden secrets, prepping him for something big still to come. Enoch's life started transforming in ways nobody could explain. He began having visions of a future so far ahead, it was mind-blowing. Just imagine, back in a time when technology wasn't even a thing, he was already seeing a great judgment and a flood that would change everything. Can you grasp the scale of that? It was like God was whispering hidden truths in his ears, and Enoch was soaking it all in with a faith that didn't shake, no matter how impossible it sounded. And these visions weren't some superstitions or made-up stories. They were answers to deep spirituality, a connection so intense it went beyond human logic. Ever thought about just taking some quiet time to listen more and talk less? To meditate on God's word and let your mind open up to the messages he's still trying to send? Sometimes the answer you're looking for is right there, but you've got to stay still long enough to hear it. But that's not all. Enoch didn't just see the future. He felt responsible to warn people. And let's be honest, most of us today see trouble coming and pretend it's not our problem. Enoch wasn't like that. He understood that with awareness comes responsibility. Maybe that's your role too, to be a point of light in a messed up world. Have you ever thought about starting a small Bible study group, helping someone through a rough patch, or just being a good example at work? That's living with purpose. These revelations didn't leave Enoch unaffected. In fact, they made him stronger, like God's strength was overflowing in him. And the interesting part is that this strength wasn't loud or showy. It was a quiet, steady strength that couldn't be shaken. Exactly the kind of strength we need to face daily battles without losing our faith. And let's face it, having that kind of strength is what sets us apart in a chaotic world. As Enoch kept moving forward, those revelations got clearer, like a curtain slowly being pulled back. It was like God was patiently showing him that this was just the beginning, that something even bigger was on the horizon. And only those who kept their spirituality alive and their conscience clear would be able to grasp it. Enoch's presence was one of those things that everybody noticed, but no one could really explain. He didn't need to raise his voice or give grand speeches. Just being there was enough. It was that kind of peace you feel when you're around someone who lives with awareness, with purpose, with God's strength in their eyes. Enoch had that. And you know what's even more curious? People felt uneasy around his serenity because it showed there was a level of spirituality they hadn't even imagined. He was one of those people who didn't let others' opinions steer him off course. While everyone else was caught up in a meaningless race for approval and attention, Enoch showed that real greatness lies in silence, in calm, in a spirituality that doesn't need an audience. He's like that friend who, even without saying much, inspires just by how they live. Have you ever thought about being that person in your circle? Someone who, instead of feeding gossip and drama, spreads positivity and faith? It's a powerful example, and you can start with simple acts. A genuine smile, an unexpected compliment, a word of encouragement. Enoch's peace also made people uncomfortable. Because, let's be real, in a noisy world, serenity feels weird. People would ask, why isn't he stressed? Why doesn't he worry like the rest of us? The answer was simple and deep. Enoch had a solid understanding that everything was in God's hands, and that gave him an unshakable peace. That's the same kind of peace we all crave, but often forget how to nurture. And the most fascinating part is that this peace wasn't just an emotional state, it was a mystery that both attracted and repelled at the same time. Some people felt inspired, others felt uneasy. It's like when you decide to live with more spirituality and awareness, and some folks just don't get it. They might even criticize, but deep down, they sense there's something there they wish they had. And that, my friend, is the kind of strength that only God can give. And here's where Enoch's story takes an even more mind-blowing turn. Because while he continued living with that serene peace and unexplained mystery, something completely out of the ordinary happened. It wasn't a public miracle, but something so unique and powerful that even today we're left wondering what really happened to him. Then just like that, Enoch disappeared. Yup, he simply vanished. No letter, no message, not even a sticky note on the door. One day he was there living his routine, and the next, poof, gone. People were baffled, trying to come up with wild explanations. But as some scratched their heads, others started realizing this wasn't just a random disappearance. It was something spiritual, something deep that went beyond human logic. Because yeah, Enoch was taken by God, and that turned into a legend that's been passed down through generations. Now stop and think. What could Enoch have done to deserve being taken like that without even facing death? He had something most people today have forgotten, a life so connected with God, with spirituality and awareness, that it transcended the ordinary. It wasn't luck or coincidence, it was the result of living with purpose. And you know what that teaches us? That when we commit to growing spiritually, our lives can reach a level nobody else can understand. It's not about being perfect, it's about living with strength and faith every single day. That disappearance became a milestone, one of those moments in history that inspires and mystifies. Picture it, a simple man, no title, no status, but with such deep spirituality that God just took him. It's like heaven itself said, "That's my friend, and I want him with me." Can you think of a more inspiring example? It's a reminder that no matter how overlooked or unknown we might feel, God sees what no one else does. And the coolest part is that this mystery has never been fully explained. And maybe that's the point. Because real spirituality doesn't always need to be understood. It needs to be lived. Enoch's strength, his faith, his approach to life, all of it prepared him for something nobody could have seen coming. And that shows us it's not about seeking explanations. It's about living each day with purpose, with awareness, with faith. And while Enoch's name turned into legend, his spiritual footprints were etched into history. A trail that even today makes a lot of people wonder, what if I too sought that deep connection with God? Could I experience something just as extraordinary?